Ladies and gentlemen, as promised, I told you I was going to give you some spoiler-filled information about The Accountant. So without further ado, let's get into it. So The Accountant. The movie begins with an opening sequence, and then it goes to this particular setting that you see right here. And this setting is interesting because there's a family that's visiting a neuroscience professor and trying to get advice about their troubled son. At the time, they don't know that his son suffers from autism, and you can see him right here. This is his younger brother. And the question, of course, they ask eventually is, can our son lead a normal life? And in the meantime, they tell you about the symptoms that, if he can't finish something, he throws a tantrum, loud noises bother him, etc. And in the corner opposite him is this young lady named Justine. And Justine, she can't afford, you try to put things on different things like shoes or whatever, and the tactile sensitivity of her, she just squirmishes and she goes crazy when you try to put things on her. Okay, you see the nurse here helping her. Well, eventually we learn that Justine is the daughter of the actual neuroscience professor who's opening up a school to help these kinds of children. Anyway, the long and short is that Justin, he's completing the puzzle that you see over here, and it comes to a point where he just has one more piece to put in the puzzle. He can't find it, he can't finish, he throws a tantrum. Justine starts to go mad, she's starting to throw a tantrum, true. And Justin, he can't handle it. He's trying to control himself. He's saying something about Solomon Grundy, but he's going mad. Justine finds the missing piece on the ground and hands it to Justin. And Justin's able to finish his puzzle. And the puzzle happens to be a puzzle on Muhammad Ali. Isn't that awesome? But in the process, we see Justine kind of calm down, and there's a little smile on her face as she just helped out Justin, which is very interesting. Now, what's interesting about this, when you watch the whole film and the whole story of, The Accountant, is that moment in time is pretty significant, okay? And you'll go back to that moment in time and cross-reference. But at the end of the movie, there is this little boy. He's also autistic. And there's a family visiting the same place with the same neuroscience professor. And this little boy, he wanders away. And he doesn't talk or anything. He doesn't say anything. The parents are concerned about him because he doesn't stimulate. They realize he's autistic in some sort of way, shape, or form. And as a result of that, the gentleman is trying to explain to him he's a little bit different and your expectations for him may be different, but don't shortchange him. There's a lot of possibilities. He can get very far, and so on. This is at the end of the film. I don't want to tell you all the details. I don't want to spoil the film for you, but I just want to do this little bit of spoiler information for you about the movie. So this little boy wanders down, comes into this room, and the first thing he sees is the photograph of Muhammad Ali over Joe Foreman. Right? As he continues to look, he sees a reflection of a woman in the picture, and he turns around and sees this woman, and she's kind of, scratching her head and scratching her body. She jumps off her bed, smacks the bed a couple times, and she's looking at him, okay? And then the little boy, his parents come in with the professor. They see him, and they grab the little boy as if, afraid of what would happen. And the professor says it's okay, and then he turns to the woman and he says, Justine. So this is Justine, the same Justine we just saw at the beginning of the film. This Justine, but she's grown up now. And he says to Justine, Justine, can he stay in here with you? And she kind of gives him a sort of signal that he can. So then the father says he'll be fine here. And let me show you the rest of the tour. And he walks off, right, with the family. So while they're walking off with the family, the father is saying, who is she? And he said, well, she's a permanent resident here. And so he says she can't talk, and she needs to use a machine to communicate. And he says, that's my daughter. And the guy was like, that's your daughter? And so he goes on to say that she communicates through using a computer, and it was a donation from some, sponsors. And the guy says, "Man, that's really, really impressive computer." And the guy's like, "Well, they very generously donated to us." And the guy says, "Is it a good computer?" And the other gentleman, who's a software engineer, he says, "That thing could run the Pentagon." And then we see a photograph of Christian Wolf and Justine. Christian Wolf, of course, being the boy that you saw who didn't complete the puzzle, which leads us back to here, where we realize that's a puzzle on the wall. And it seems like Christian gave Justine that puzzle, and she framed it. Also, interestingly enough, when we look here, we see Justine has a schedule. And in the movie, there's this British woman who constantly calls Christian Wolf, or Christian Wolf consults to know what's the next step or what's the next move, if he's being pinned down, if somebody's monitoring him. And what's interesting enough is Justine is all excited and things. She's jumping up and down. She presses the machine to turn it on. And she sees the little boy, so she's very excited. And she comes and jumps up and down on the machine. And you can see her with eager enthusiasm to type something. And she ends up typing, "Hello, Dream something." I think it's Dreamstar or something. "Shall we chat?" That's what it says. And the vocalizer actually talks. So the little boy, he wakes up and he looks at this and he smiles. And Justine gives him that knowing look like, "Let's talk." Because Justine can't talk otherwise. And I just realized that in the movie, Justine was the one communicating with Christian Wolf. And nobody would suspect that Justine could do these things. They'd underestimate her, And what's so weird about it is Justine, she had all the strategy, the sense to tell Christian what to do, and she learned how to communicate with Christian. So that the initial communication between these two ended up being a lasting relationship where Christian trusted Justine to give him the suitable advice necessary to proceed as Christian Wolf or any other alias he has and continue his operations as much as is humanly possible. Which is just simply amazing. And I never really picked that up in the movie. I never really realized that until I watched the movie again. Which is another thing I want to say to you guys. You really need to check out The Accountant. If you haven't, get it on Blu-ray or DVD. It really talks a lot about autism and helps us to understand it a little bit better. And what's cool about it is seeing it from the perspective of someone who would be autistic. So I thought this was an outstanding movie, well done by Gavin Reese. I don't understand why it got such a low critical response on Rotten Tomatoes. This is, again, time and time again, we see movies that actually matter. Movies that actually can make an impact in the world. I believe in meaningful movies. I believe in that. I really do. And once again, when I look at what Warner Brothers produces, it's not just your run-of-the-mill kind of typical, empty movie where you got your entertainment and then you just walk off. No. They always have value in what they're doing. And that's where I grew up. I grew up watching movies where it wasn't just entertaining, but it gave you value. There are movies with empty calories. People talking about this is a great movie, empty calories in it. And I'm tired of that kind of stuff. I don't spend all my money and my time to go into a cinema to watch a movie that's just entertainment, that's it. I don't want to break from the world. I want to exist in the world, and I want something that can inform me of some sort of value or virtue I never thought about before. And time and time again, these movies, I have it as a collection now. I'm getting it on Blu-ray and DVD, The Accountant, absolutely, because it's one of those movies. So you can see there that also, she has a little schedule here, and she keeps her schedule, and she can write. She just can't talk. Her motor skills somehow got messed up, so she doesn't talk. But she's got everything lined up, and she knows what she's doing. It's so crazy, man, how people underestimate people. So she's hidden in plain sight almost. So I thought that was awesome. The other thing that I think is very awesome is this actor here. And so I just want to talk about the parallels between this movie and people associated with Batman. So this little actor here, his name is Roman Spink. Okay? Roman Spink. That's his name. What's interesting about him, he's age 7 to 9 years old right at this point in time. But what's very interesting about Roman Spink is that he has a brother. And his brother's name is Brandon Spink. Here's Brandon Spink. And what's interesting about Brandon Spink is Brandon Spink actually played or acted in Batman v Superman. Brandon Spink acted in Batman v Superman as young Bruce Wayne. So it's very interesting that his brother ends up in The Accountant. Here's some other interesting things about The Accountant that I thought were interesting. Of course, Mr. Batman himself, Ben Affleck, who plays Christian Wolf in the movie, he was also in The Accountant. J.K. Simmons, who is playing Commissioner Gordon in the Justice League, he was Ray King in The Accountant. Cynthia Adai Robinson, who you see right here, who played Amanda Waller of the Suicide Squad in Arrow on the CW, she was in The Accountant. And a number of other people who could be affiliated at some point or the other with Batman were also in this movie. Here's another interesting thing that I thought was interesting. The actor Allison Wright. This is the actress who actually played Justine, the adult Justine, in The Accountant. And the child who played young Justine, Izzy Fenech, she played young Justine in The Accountant. So these people will really have the ability and skills to transform quite well in this movie. Let me just jump back to it. So here, believe it or not, this is Allison Wright. I know. You're thinking, what? You're like, yeah, that's Allison Wright. Look at her. She did a fantastic job doing that, transforming into that. And this is Izzy Fenech, who pulled off the young Justine. So I just thought I would share this stuff with you guys. If you haven't seen The Accountant, so you kind of understand the gravity of what I'm saying, the presence of Justine throughout that movie, and you didn't know it was Justine until the end of the movie. If you don't understand what I'm saying, go watch The Accountant. I haven't spoiled the whole entire movie. There's a lot to this movie that meets the eye. So you can really still enjoy this movie, have a great time. It has everything thrilling. It's a thriller. It's an action movie. It's a character study. It's a dramatic movie. All these things are involved in this movie. What a fantastic movie. I don't understand how it got 40-something% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't get it, but it is what it is. I think there are a lot of stupid people who do not understand. I don't think they understand movies. There are a lot of stupid people who just don't understand movies out here, and they get paid to be jackasses. So it is what it is. You guys have a great one.